You're my funny Valentine, sweet comic.
My name's Marjorie Hill, and I'm proud to be the Chief Executive Officer of Gay Men's Health Crisis. But what I'm really proud of today is just how fierce Kiss and Tell is. So give yourselves a hand. GMHC is the oldest AIDS service organization in the world. Our logo used to be First in the Fight. And in terms of history, it's really important, I feel like, we embrace and understand history. And GMHC was the first organization to create a Safer Sex campaign. And while we have a lot of company now, that's a good thing, we still do it with a special flair. And so I'm just happy to be here at the new, relatively new, HIV Prevention Center and in Club 1319, where it all happens wonderful and real and powerfully. And speaking of wonderful and real and powerful and good looking, we are really fortunate. There was my mother used to have one of those little hot plate things that had a saying on it, and it said, you know, you pick your friends, but God picks your neighbors. But I think that both we had a little hand in it, and God had a little hand in it, and luck had a little hand in it, in picking the friend that I'm about to introduce. If you have been at all awake or conscious during the last few years of his phenomenal career and some of the most beautiful photography the world has ever seen, then the person I'm about to introduce needs no introduction. But he's someone who doesn't just look good or make other people look good, but he's someone who believes in doing good. So I want you to join me in welcoming our photographer, our friend, Mike Ruiz.
Oh, Marjorie, you always want to make me cry. I'm all choked up now. I don't know what to say. Happy Valentine's Day, first of all. I'm really, really, really happy and grateful to be a friend of GMHC's and to be here and to be able to have shot the Kiss and Tell campaign. You know, it's very important for me to bridge the gap from, you know, the younger generation to my generation. And, you know, like I went through, you know, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And, you know, it's my goal to spare you guys, you know, making the same mistakes that I made. So, you know, that's why I'm here, and that's why I do all the stuff that I do with GMHC and every other organization that works directly with youth. So, that's about it. I'm just really thankful and grateful to be able to do that, to have a platform to do that, and to have an opportunity to do that, and to have a wonderful organization behind me, GMHC. Thank you all. Happy Valentine's Day.
Well, it's okay, don't be nervous. It's okay. We thank you for continuously coming back and participating in our campaigns. Thank you, Justin. Chris, I would like to ask you, what does Kiss and Tell mean in your own words?
Kiss and Tell is basically being able to talk to your partner about your past history, your sexual history, and being able to communicate better and know exactly the status of your partner. And because communication is important in a relationship, so that's basically what Kiss and Tell means.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Emery, have you ever kissed and told, and how was that experience for you?
I'm not a very kiss and tell type of guy, but I guess that's something I learned from the campaign. I'm very private with my business and my previous partners and anything, but I really think it would be helpful if I actually did discuss my previous partners, and I guess that's the purpose of this campaign, so that's what I learned from this.
Hello? Okay, thank you, Emery. Sammy, Why is social marketing important for MSM of color, or just MSM across the board? Why do you think social marketing is an important tactic for this community?
Well, now that it's 2012, fortunately, everything is through, you know, the internet and posters, just basically commercials, basically getting yourself out there in the social marketing sectors. Whether it's Facebook or Twitter, everybody's on there. So the best way to adjust and explain stuff to the youth is through social marketing. I feel like it's a good way of expressing what exactly is going on to the youth.
Thank you, Sammy. All right, Dexter, I wanted to ask you, how do you see HIV and STDs in your community, and how do young people react to it in your experience?
This is an interesting question because I don't feel like it's really talked about much in my community. I would say my community being the younger community because I am more younger than, you know, a lot of people in this room. But as far as, you know, HIV and AIDS goes, and even STDs and STIs, I don't think it's really spoken about in the community, and I don't really feel like it's put out there enough for the community because kids are just still doing, you know, what they want, not using condoms, not using protection, not explaining to their partner, you know, this is who I've been with, this is what I've done in the past. And I feel like, you know, if us, even the people here at GMHC, you know, this campaign is allowing people to feel more comfortable in talking about, you know, this is what I have, or this is what I might have, this is, you know, this campaign is going to help a lot of people be more comfortable with themselves and the relationships that they're in, and talking about HIV and AIDS and STDs and STIs. So I think that this is all going to help.
Thank you, Dexter. You're absolutely right. Encouraging conversation around not only HIV and STDs, but sex and experience is something we want to encourage the youth to do. Mike Ruiz. I have a question for you, Mike. For you, growing up in your life, how would have this played a role if something like Kiss and Tell came out when you were growing up in your life? And how do you think that, or how do you hope that it plays a role in the lives of youth today?
I grew up in a time where it was unfathomable to have a campaign like this out in, you know, visible, like a visible campaign like this. So, like, I was the complete product of, you know, keeping everything on the DL and, you know, like living in shame. I mean, even about my sexuality. I mean, even living in New York City, I moved here in the late 80s, and, you know, and I found that I was, you know, I was embarrassed and ashamed to even say to most people that I was gay. You know, if I met somebody, so, you know, certainly to discuss my anything sexual, what, you know, like, was way down on the totem pole. You know, like, I would never even fathom thinking about it. So, you know, if I would have seen something like this, I would have, like, I mean, you know, if I would have seen this in a subway or on a kiosk or something, I would have burst into tears thinking, oh my God, there's somebody, like, reaching out to me and speaking to me, you know, because I felt so alone and I felt so isolated. And, you know, to have a campaign like this, to, you know, like it, you know, and I'm hoping that the youth, that the younger generation doesn't take it for granted because, you know, everything is so much different than it was in, you know, in my day when bread was a nickel. You know, like, so that's why I would have been so grateful to have somebody speak directly to me in this form, you know, like in a campaign like this. So, you know, I'm just hoping that the youth, that you guys, like, don't take this for granted, and, you know, like, this is, you know, like, all of these people here are here to support you guys, and it's unbelievable, and, like, I'm gonna burst into tears if I go on, you know, much more, but, like, I didn't have that when I was your age, so you know, I wish I would have, and I hope that it doesn't go unnoticed, and, you know, and like that it's not lost. You know, like, the message isn't lost. I mean, it's so important, and there's no shame in sexuality, and there's no shame in discussing your history, especially if you're gonna, you know, I mean, if you love and respect somebody, you wanna, you know, you wanna express that, and concealing your your sexual history can be deadly these days. So it's very important to get that out there and to not be ashamed about it, because it's all about loving yourself, loving your partner, and it's just like reciprocal love. And the more like we all exchange that love, the more it grows, and the more we dispel all of the negative stigma and all of the haters and all everything negative that's put on us.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was well said. Nicole. Sweet Nicole. Being in this work of community health, I'd like to ask you, how do you see HIV prevalence in the population of youth? And also, on the side of that, how do you see HIV prevalence in the colored community?
Yeah, it'll stretch.
Thank you, Jesse. Based on the most current data we have from the Department of Health, New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, we do know that certain populations are disproportionately affected by HIV and AIDS. For instance, we know that about 3.8% of the total HIV diagnoses among men 13 and older, but specifically those between the ages of 13 and 19. I'm sorry, that 3.8% of the total diagnoses are among that age group, 13 to 19, for males. Now, contrast that with 34.4% of the total HIV diagnoses being among men 20 to 29. So what that means to us is that people who are doing the work that we're all doing need to especially focus on that younger population, because we have a difference of 30% of the total HIV diagnoses from 13 to 19, and then from 20 to 29. So that focusing on that young population is very, very important. Additionally, we know that 78% of the new HIV/AIDS diagnoses are among Black and Latino men. That's completely astounding. We know that based on the most recent census, those two populations make up only about 50% of the total New York City population, yet 78% of new HIV/AIDS diagnoses are in those groups. So that's also very, very astounding and very shocking. Lastly, we know that about 68% of the total HIV diagnoses are in gay men and men who have sex with men. So these are all areas and populations that we have to specifically target, which is exactly what we're doing in this campaign.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Now I'd like to ask the models of Kiss and Tell a question, and I'd like maybe Justin and Chris can answer the first question, and then we can move on to the second question with the next three. The question I'd have for the two of you would be, what words of encouragement or what words, period, would you have for young people who are questioning their sexuality and questioning where they may want to take themselves? Either one of you can answer.
Repeat the question, please.
What words of encouragement or what words would you have, or actually any of the models can answer, what words would you have for young people questioning their sexuality? Like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them just to be more comfortable with who they are, because when you know, like, who your past, like, who you are, you get, I don't know, like, a sense of, like, you have a higher self-esteem, and, like, that's what's important, especially for the youth, like, and that's what we're trying to represent, too, and help out the youth.
That's interesting. I actually think, how can you question if you you naturally know what you're attracted to? But I would say if you are questioning your sexuality,
Well, not everyone accepts it. Right.
yeah. But explore. Don't be afraid to explore. Be accepting to who you are. I mean, it's a part of growing up and maturing. Once you reach a certain age and maturity as wise in your mind. You should just be more comfortable with yourself. As you grow up, you don't want to be ashamed of who you are and living a lifestyle that's not yourself. Like, accept who you are. Who's going to stop you? Who's going to say something? Who's going to check you? That's all I have to say.
As far as people questioning their sexuality, one thing I would have to say is don't question it. Feel it. Feel your sexuality. You shouldn't have to question it. Whatever you feel inside your heart is what is right for you. Don't let somebody else make the decision for you, because then you'll be sad, you'll be depressed. You won't be making the decision for yourself. You won't really know who you are for yourself. You have to, questioning it is okay. You might question it at first. You might be thinking, dang, do I really like this? Am I really this way? Questioning yourself. Question yourself maybe once. But you only really need to ask yourself once, because you're going to say the answer the first time you ask yourself. And then after that, you should just feel it from your heart. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
For young people LGBTQ young people in particular, trying to grow up and obtain the success that you've had in your career, what would you tell them? What words of advice or hints or insiders would you give to them for them to really be able to push themselves to be as successful as you've been?
Well, I wish there was a magic formula to give, but there isn't. You know, it's all about what, you know, in hindsight, it's all about self-love. You know, it's all about making the right decisions for yourself, like every step of the way. And you guys have, you know, you guys are ahead of the game because you're the age that you are, and you know, so every decision, you just have to understand that you have to take full responsibility for your lives and your action, because every single decision you make, every thought you have, every word that you speak has an effect on somebody or something. So you just have to become cognizant of that, you know, and it's hard to understand. It may be difficult to understand now because you have all these emotions in you, and sometimes you have anger and you have like stuff that just needs to come out. But you gotta always, like, you know, it's easier said than done, you know, and I know that because I learned that the hard way too. But you gotta. That's my only advice is to understand that you have full responsibility for how your life turns out. Nobody else does. It's not the world, you know, like people who tell me like, oh, you know, like the world, you know, like I got dealt shitty cards and, you know, whatever. You know, the reality is that those are people who cannot take responsibility for their own lives. And I learned that too, you know, for the longest time I blamed everyone. You know, why is this happening? You know, why is these people, why is everyone treating me this way? And why, you know, I had all these questions. And then I started being introspective, and I realized, wait a minute, you know, maybe the problem's not with the world, maybe the problem's with me. So I started making changes, you know, and it was a lot of effort, and but once I understood that, it's a funny thing, once I understood that I had full responsibility for that's really when I prospered exponentially. You know, it was a slow, steady rise for years and years and years, and then when I realized, like, wow, I have full control over every single aspect of my life. How I feel, what I say, what I do, what's going to happen tomorrow is up to me. It's not up to anybody else. And once I understood that, like, I felt so empowered and I felt so powerful, and I just, you know, all this stuff started manifesting because I had control over it. So don't ever think that you don't have control over your life. You have control over every single nuance of your life. So that's, you know, just understand that. That's my advice.
Well, first and foremost, considering that in this country, in the United States, 1 out of every 5 people who is HIV positive does not in fact know that they're HIV positive, HIV testing is of utmost importance. Here at GMHC, on the first floor of this building actually, is the HIV testing center, which is free and confidential HIV testing. So that would be first and foremost my suggestion in order to make yourself informed, know your status. But after that, just knowing your status isn't enough. You have to be able to communicate to other people, communicate about healthy sexual relationships, healthy relationships in general, and just be able to do that. So that's number 2. Communication is key. And lastly, keep doing, I guess, what we're all doing, and would be fighting stigma and discrimination, homophobia in general. In this country, a lot of stigma and a lot of blame is placed on being gay, on being young, gay, MSM, particularly of color in this country. And so continuing the fight against those things is going to open a lot of doors as well. That was my suggestion.
We have so many organizations now that give you options and how to be a part of it. Whether it's communication, or it's a video game, or it's some type of activity that shows you how to protect yourself. Don't be ignorant. That's all it is. Read, listen, and pay attention to what your future is. You have the choice to decide if you want to be infected or not. Because if you took the precautions and the measures that are given to you, you'll be able to protect yourself. So just know that you're important. Know your importance. And That's basically a way of saving yourself.
I just hope our message takes effect on the younger people, and that when they get older, they continue to spread the message to, I don't know, help the younger generation.
I mean, I hope that you all enjoy the pictures, one, but and two, I really hope that the message of Kiss and Tell is important and will show results in decreasing the amount of positive or infections we have this year, or showing some types of results. I just hope the message is really effective in, you know, helping relationships in our era at this time.
My hope would be that at least one person would be saved from viewing this campaign. From there, relationships are more open, more vocal. People are trusting each other more. Where we're starting to be able to communicate at a young age, rather than when we're older. That we're not afraid anymore to speak to our partners and tell them where we've been at and how to get from there. I feel that the more people that we talk to, the more that we talk to each other and our partners, the less likely, you know, passing on HIV and AIDS will continue. I feel like if it can stop with us and the next generation will pick up where we just started, we'll have a strong movement, and this campaign will never be forgotten if we move on that format.
I'd like to start by saying that I hope that everybody that sees this campaign, wherever they see it at, just takes advantage of what this campaign actually means. And the fact that, you know, we're putting our faces on this campaign as a way to say, I'm your age, I'm out, you can do this, we can do this. It doesn't just start with GMHC, like it starts with all of us. We have to continue to teach everybody what's going on and continue to make sure that everybody knows that it's okay to kiss and tell, it's okay to be gay, it's okay to live your life the way that you want to live your life. And I hope that everybody just takes advantage of that and sees that this is what we're trying to get through to everyone.
You know, just a summation of everything that I've said so far. I just hope that it empowers the youth to make the right choices for themselves and for their partners and for the rest of their lives, really.
I also want to thank the organization itself for just their steadfast faith and belief that we will be able to find a cure to this insidious problem, and hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. And with everybody's cooperation as we move forward, I think it's just going to happen sooner rather than later.
My fingers are perpetually crossed for continued youth involvement in this movement. So getting young people involved, be it in Club 1319 here at GMHC, or in other organizations across the city, across country, across the world. Having more youth who are educated, out, open, and very enthusiastic about this cause, like everyone on the couch right here and everyone in the Kiss and Tell campaign. That's what I wish for.
Again, my name is Jazzy Alejandro, and I work here at Club 1319 that's open every day of the week from 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. So please feel free to come by or send any young people that you know to come by and check out the program and check out our services. At this time, we'd like to give a round of applause for all our panelists. A round of applause for the Community Health Department for putting this beautiful event and this beautiful campaign together. And just appreciating GMHC for always being first and on the forefront of this fight, whether it be homophobia, HIV, AIDS, or just making the world a better place. Thank you very much to everyone for attending.
He's just an